The door clicked shut and my best friend's brother whispered, "Stay." My heart raced, years of hidden glances and unspoken feelings crashed into that moment. But when the truth came out, it wasn't love that broke me, it was betrayal. This is the story of how I fought to love myself in a world that told me I shouldn't. Or clicked shut and my world tilted. I was 19, sprawled on Marcus's couch in his Chicago apartment, scrolling through my phone, waiting for my best friend to return with pizza. His older brother, Nathan, stood in the doorway. At 23, Nathan was everything I wasn't: bold, magnetic, the kind of guy who could steal the air from a room without trying. I'd known him since I was 15, always catching his shadow in the corner of my eye, always pretending I didn't notice him noticing me. That night he didn't just walk in, he locked the door. My pulse spiked. "Stay," he whispered, his voice low, like he was afraid of his own words. I froze, my phone slipping from my hand. "What are you doing, Nathan?" My voice betrayed me, shaky and thin. He stepped closer, eyes locked on mine, unreadable but heavy with something unspoken. "Just stay, Caleb." I should have laughed it off, called him out for being weird, but I didn't. For years I'd felt it, those stolen glances when Marcus wasn't looking, the way his hand brushed mine at a bonfire 2 summers ago and lingered too long. Now here we were alone, the air thick with everything we'd never said. "Caleb," he said, softer now, like my name was a secret he wasn't sure he could keep. "You ever feel like you're holding your breath, waiting for something to happen?" I swallowed hard. "Yeah, all the time." He nodded like he'd known my answer before I spoke. "Me too, and it's killing me." I wanted to ask what he meant, to demand answers, but his eyes held me there, raw and searching. "What are we doing, Nathan?" I asked, my voice barely above a whisper. "I don't know," he admitted, his shoulders slumping, "but I know I can't keep pretending I don't feel this." The moment stretched, fragile and electric, until Marcus's key rattled in the lock downstairs. Nathan's face shifted, closed off, guarded. He unlocked the door and left without another word, leaving me with a racing heart and a question I wasn't ready to answer. I wasn't out, not to Marcus, not to anyone. Growing up in a small Midwest town, I'd heard the whispers about kids who dared to be different. The slurs scrawled on lockers, the sermons about sin, the parents who stopped inviting you over. My own parents, devout and distant, had made it clear. Love was a choice and it came with God's rules. I'd spent years building walls around my heart, convincing myself I could live without love if it meant staying safe. But Nathan was cracking those walls, and I wasn't sure I could rebuild them. That night I lay awake in Marcus's guest room, staring at the ceiling. I pulled out my journal, a battered notebook I'd kept since high school, and wrote. He looked at me like he saw me. Not the Caleb who laughs at Marcus's dumb jokes or pretends everything's fine. The real me. But what happens if I let him see? What happens if the world sees? The words felt like a confession, one I wasn't ready to share with anyone but the page. The next few weeks were a tightrope walk over a canyon of my own making. Marcus's apartment became a battlefield of unspoken words. Nathan was everywhere, lounging in the kitchen, his laughter filling the car during late-night drives along Lake Michigan, his presence like a pulse I couldn't ignore. But it was the quiet moments that undid me. One evening, Marcus was out grabbing groceries, and Nathan found me in the living room, flipping through a book I wasn't really reading. He leaned against the wall, arms crossed, his dark hair falling into his eyes. "You're quiet tonight," he said, his voice softer than it needed to be. "Just thinking," I replied, avoiding his gaze. "About what?" He stepped closer, and I felt the air shift, heavy with possibility. I wanted to lie, to say something safe, but the truth slipped out. About how it feels to want something you're not supposed to. He froze, then sat on the couch, close enough that our knees almost touched. "You think I don't get that?" His voice was raw, like he was peeling back a layer he'd kept hidden. "I've been wanting something I shouldn't for years, ever since Marcus brought you home that first time, all nervous in that oversized hoodie, asking if we had Wi-Fi." I laughed, despite myself, the memory sharp. I was a mess. "You were real," he said, his eyes locking onto mine, and it scared the hell out of me. My heart thudded. "Then why do you keep pulling away? One minute you're like this, and the next you're gone." He looked down, fingers tracing the edge of the couch. "Because it's not just about me, it's Marcus, my dad, my mom, who still asks when I'm bringing home a nice girl, everyone who expects me to be someone else, the guy who plays the part, who doesn't make waves." I leaned forward, my voice sharper than I meant. "You think I don't know what that's like? My parents call every Sunday to remind me to stay on the right path. My sister, Sarah, thinks I'm just confused. I've spent my life pretending, Nathan, hiding who I am so I don't lose everything, but I'm tired of it." He met my eyes, and for a moment I saw something break in him. "I'm trying, Caleb. I just don't know how to do this without breaking everything." "Then stop trying to do it alone," I said, my voice cracking. "I'm right here." Before he could respond, Marcus burst through the door, arms full of grocery bags, oblivious to the tension. Yo, they were out of your weird almond milk, he called, and Nathan stood, slipping back into his guarded shell. At night I'd lie awake, my journal open, pen scratching against the page. He says he's scared, but so am I. Why does it feel like he's the only one who gets to decide what happens next? I wrote about the way his voice softened when he spoke to me, the way his hand lingered when he passed me a drink. I wrote about my parents who'd always taught me that love was a choice you made with God's approval. I wrote about Sarah who'd called last week, her voice sharp. Caleb, you're not like that, are you? You're just going through a phase. I wrote about the fear that kept me up, the fear that if I let myself feel this, the world would punish me for it. But I also wrote about the hope, the way Nathan's eyes made me feel seen, the way his words felt like a lifeline, even if he kept pulling it away. Nathan's behavior grew more confusing. One morning he caught me in the kitchen, mid-bite of cereal. You look different when you're not hiding, he said, his voice quiet but piercing. I froze, spoon halfway to my mouth. What's that supposed to mean? He shrugged, but his eyes didn't leave mine. You're always so careful, like you're afraid to take up space. Maybe I am, I shot back. Not everyone gets to be fearless like you. He laughed, but it was bitter. Fearless. You think I'm not scared out of my mind right now? Every time I'm near you, it's like I'm standing on the edge of a cliff. Then why are we even talking? I asked, my chest tight. He stepped closer, his voice barely a whisper, because I can't stop. The moment hung between us, fragile and electric, until Marcus's footsteps echoed down the hall. Nathan backed away, and I hated how much I wanted him to stay. I started avoiding my parents' calls, their voicemails piling up. Caleb, we're worried about you, my mom said in one. You're not yourself lately. I didn't know how to tell her that maybe, for the first time I was. One afternoon I found Nathan alone on the apartment's balcony, staring out at the city. You ever think about running away? He asked without looking at me. Every day, I admitted, but where would I go? He turned, his eyes searching mine. Somewhere you don't have to pretend. I wanted to tell him that place didn't exist, not for me. But before I could, he reached out, his fingers brushing my wrist. It was fleeting, but it burned, a silent promise I wasn't sure he could keep. One night everything shattered. Marcus was out with friends, and Nathan found me on the balcony, the city lights flickering below like a promise we couldn't keep. Caleb, he said, his voice raw, I need to tell you something. My stomach twisted, then say it. He stepped closer, so close I could feel his breath. I've wanted you since the first time Marcus brought you home. I tried to stop, but I can't. My world tilted, I reached for his hand, tentative, and he didn't pull away. For one perfect moment we stood there, fingers intertwined, the truth louder than the city noise. Then he kissed me quick, desperate, like he was stealing something he wasn't allowed to have. My heart soared, the warmth of his lips erasing every doubt I'd carried, but before I could process it, he tore himself away. This was a mistake, he muttered, his face pale. I can't do this. He left me standing there, heart in pieces, the taste of him still on my lips. The next day the rumors started. A neighbor must have seen us on the balcony, because by morning whispers were spreading like wildfire. I overheard two coworkers at the coffee shop where I worked, their voices low but sharp. Did you hear about Caleb? Yeah, with Marcus's brother. My stomach dropped. I kept my head down, but the stares followed me. Customers, regulars, even my boss, who gave me a tight-lipped smile when I clocked in. Marcus confronted me that evening in the living room, his face tight with hurt. Is it true? He asked. You and Nathan. I couldn't lie, it's complicated. He shook his head, his voice low. He's my brother, Caleb, and you didn't tell me. I thought we were family. I didn't know how, I said, my voice breaking. I didn't even know what it was. Marcus didn't yell, but his silence cut deeper. You should have told me, he said, and walked out, leaving me alone with my guilt. The rumors grew vicious. My phone buzzed with texts from old classmates, some curious, some cruel. Faggot, one read, anonymous and sharp. I deleted it, but the word burrowed into me. I stopped going to class, afraid of the stares. My parents called, their voices clipped. Caleb, why is your name popping up online? My dad asked. What's this about you and some boy? It's a misunderstanding, I lied, but their silence told me they didn't believe me. My mom's next words were worse. We raised you better than this. My sister Sarah texted me a day later. Caleb, people are talking. Are you gay? Mom and dad are freaking out. Call me. I couldn't face her judgment, not when I was already drowning in it. Nathan was the worst part. He avoided me completely, his absence a louder betrayal than the kiss. I saw him once passing through the apartment and he wouldn't meet my eyes. I felt like I'd been used, like I was a secret he regretted keeping. One night I sat alone in my room, journal open, pen shaking in my hand. He said he wanted me, then left me to drown. Why did I let myself believe him? I wrote about the kiss, the rumors, the way Marcus's disappointment felt like losing a brother. I wrote about my parents who'd always told me love was a choice you made with God's approval. I wrote about Sarah, who'd once been my confidant but now felt like a stranger. I wrote about the boy I'd been, hiding in church pews, praying to be someone else. I wrote until my hand cramped, until the words blurred with tears. I started skipping shifts at work, unable to face the whispers. My boss called me into her office one day, her tone professional but cold. "Caleb, some customers have complained. They're saying things about you. I need you to keep your personal life out of here." I nodded, humiliated, and left, wondering how my life had become something to apologize for. I called Sarah that night, desperate for someone to understand. "I don't get it, Caleb," she said, her voice sharp. "You're throwing away everything, your family, your future, for what, some guy?" "He's not just some guy," I said, my voice breaking. "He's everything." "Then why are you the one paying for it?" she asked and hung up. A week later, I couldn't take it anymore. I found Nathan at a park near his apartment, sitting alone on a bench, the Chicago skyline looming behind him. The air was crisp, the kind of autumn chill that seeps into your bones. I marched up to him, my voice shaking with anger. "Why, Nathan? Why kiss me, then disappear? Why let me take the fall for everything?" He looked up, eyes red like he hadn't slept in days. "Because I'm a coward, Caleb. My dad, he'd disown me. My friends, they'd laugh. I thought if I pushed you away, I could pretend I didn't feel this." "You let them tear me apart," I said, tears burning my eyes. "Do you know what it's like to walk into work and feel everyone staring, to lose your best friend because you dared to feel something? My parents think I'm broken. My sister won't even talk to me." Nathan stood, his voice breaking. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I've spent my life hiding. I thought I could handle it, but I can't, not when it's you." I stepped closer, my anger spilling over. "You don't get to say that now. You don't get to act like you're the only one who's scared. I've been hiding too, Nathan, but I was ready to stop for you." He flinched like my words were a slap. "I had someone once," he said, his voice barely audible. "A guy back in college. His name was Ryan. We kept it secret, but someone found out. My dad, he called it a sin, said I'd shamed the family. Ryan begged me to stay to fight for us, but I couldn't. I ended it, and I've been running from myself ever since. I didn't want to drag you into that." The confession hit me like a wave. I saw the war in his eyes, shame, fear, a boy trying to fit into a world that didn't want him. "I'm not Ryan," I said, "and I'm not your dad, but you don't get to decide my truth. I'm done hiding. If you can't be honest, I'm walking away." I turned to leave, my heart pounding, but his voice stopped me. "Caleb, wait, I'm trying. I swear I'm trying." I faced him, my voice steady despite the tears. "Then try harder, because I'm worth it, and so are you." He nodded, his eyes glistening. "I know, I need time." "Time up," I said. "You either choose this, us, or you don't, but I'm not waiting anymore." I walked away, the weight of my own words anchoring me. For the first time, I wasn't running from myself. I was choosing me. That night, I went to a local LGBT support group I'd found online, desperate for someone to understand. The room was small, filled with people who'd faced the same whispers, the same fears. A man named Javier, a poet with kind eyes, spoke up during the meeting. "You don't have to carry the world's judgment," he said. "You just have to carry yourself, and that's enough." His words stayed with me, a lifeline in the storm. I wrote them in my journal, along with a promise to myself: I am enough. Even if no one else sees it, I do. A few days later, I saw Sarah at a coffee shop, her face tight with worry. "Caleb, I'm sorry," she said. "I didn't mean to hurt you. I don't understand this, but I don't want to lose you." I took a deep breath. "I'm not asking you to understand, Sarah. I'm asking you to love me." She nodded, tears in her eyes. "I'm trying, I promise." It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Days later, I was at my apartment, a small studio on the edge of Chicago, when a knock startled me. Nathan stood there, a letter in his hand, his hoodie zipped halfway, eyes darker than I'd ever seen. "I wrote to my dad," he said, his voice steady but fragile. "Told him who I am, told him about you." My breath caught, and he hasn't replied, maybe he never will, but I'm done running. He stepped closer, his eyes searching mine. "I love you, Caleb. I'm not asking you to forgive me yet. Just let me prove I can be better." I didn't answer right away. I thought of the rumors, the loneliness, the nights I'd cried myself to sleep. I thought of my parents who'd sent a curt email after the rumors spread. "We're praying for you, Caleb. Come home when you're ready to talk." I thought of Marcus, who hadn't texted since our fight. I thought of Sarah, who was trying but still struggled to understand. But I also thought of Nathan, the boy who locked a door and whispered, "Stay," the boy who was fighting to be free. "Okay," I said finally, "but we do this together, no more secrets." He nodded, a tear slipping down his cheek. No more secrets. That weekend, we sat Marcus down at a diner near Lake Michigan. The air smelled of coffee and fried eggs, and my stomach churned as Nathan cleared his throat. Marcus, we need to talk. Marcus raised an eyebrow, his fork pausing midair. Oh God, you're not dying, are you? We laughed, a nervous release, and Nathan took a breath. We're together, me and Caleb. A pause stretched across the table, heavy and uncertain. Marcus looked between us, his face unreadable. Yeah, I kind of figured, he said finally, a small grin breaking through. You think I didn't notice the way you two kept sneaking looks, the whole balcony thing? I was waiting for you idiots to just say it. I blinked, stunned. You're not mad. He shrugged, taking a bite of his eggs. You're my brother, he said to Nathan. And you're my best friend, he said to me. Just don't break each other's hearts, okay? I'm not playing referee. Relief flooded me and I laughed, tears pricking my eyes. Nathan reached for my hand under the table, his fingers warm and steady. The weeks that followed weren't easy. My parents invited me home for dinner, but the conversation was stilted, their eyes avoiding mine when I mentioned Nathan. We just want what's best for you, my mom said, her voice tight. This lifestyle isn't what we raised you for. I took a deep breath, my voice steady. I'm not choosing a lifestyle, Mom. I'm choosing to be happy, to be me. My dad looked away and the silence was deafening. I left feeling raw but resolute, knowing some bridges take time to build. Sarah came to visit a week later and we talked, really talked for the first time in months. I don't get it yet, she admitted, but I see how happy you are with him. That's enough for me to try. Nathan's dad never responded to his letter, but Nathan found solace in the support group I'd attended. He started going regularly, sharing his story, his voice growing stronger each time. I went with him sometimes, finding comfort in the community, people like Javier who'd faced their own battles and come out stronger. One evening, Javier pulled me aside after a meeting. You're doing the hard work, he said. Loving yourself when the world tells you not to, it's the bravest thing you can do. I nodded, his words settling into me like a truth I'd always known but never named. I wrote them in my journal that night, along with a new entry. I'm not just surviving anymore, I'm living, and it feels like freedom. A month later, Nathan and I attended a Pride event in Chicago, a small gathering in a community center. Javier was there, reading a poem about love and resilience. When he finished, he invited others to share. Nathan stood, his hands shaking but his voice clear. I spent years hiding who I am, he said, but someone showed me I didn't have to. This is for him. He looked at me and the room faded away. Nathan and I settled into something real, late-night talks over burnt toast, walks along the lakefront, his arm brushing mine without fear. We fought sometimes about silly things like whose playlist was better, mine, obviously, but we always came back to each other. One night under the Chicago stars, we sat on my apartment's fire escape, the city humming below. Nathan took my hand, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. I'm not afraid anymore, he said, his voice steady. I squeezed his hand, my heart full. Good, because I've always seen you. He leaned in and we kissed, not rushed, not desperate, but slow and certain, like we were finally allowed to exist. It wasn't just a kiss, it was a promise, a bridge built from years of silence to a future we'd fight for together. Months later, we took a road trip to Wisconsin, just the two of us, driving through fields that stretched forever. Nathan turned to me, the sunlight catching his eyes. You know, he said, I spent so long thinking I wasn't allowed to feel this way, like something about me was broken. You weren't broken, I told him, my voice soft. You were surviving. He nodded, a small smile breaking through, but surviving isn't the same as living. I reached for his hand, our fingers intertwining. Then let's live. And we did, through the hard days, the quiet moments, the laughter that felt like home. We weren't perfect, but we were honest, and that was enough. Love doesn't erase the pain of betrayal or the weight of a world that judges. It doesn't fix every wound or silence every whisper, but it builds bridges, fragile, beautiful ones where truth can stand. And for the first time, standing on that bridge with Nathan, I wasn't afraid to cross it.